Welcome to the 8th edition of Next is Now, a Future of Farming podcast. I'm your host, Brian Brunson with GFL Ag, and my co-host, Dan Aberhart from Aberhart Ag Solutions.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. What we do now has such a big impact on what happens next for the future of farming. That is why on this show we say, next is now.
Correct, Dan. We'll continue to discuss and debate topics that make a difference to farmers' operations now. I'll be asking a lot of questions as usual. I'm the layman here trying to figure out how things work on the farm. And it's my job at GFL Ag to try and understand what's happening in the world of agriculture and help you guys and gals produce better, hopefully using some of our stuff.
Hey, and it's my job, Brian, to help you understand better. I'm your guide. I'll be your Obi-Wan Kenobi for today. It's always fun to talk to somebody who's outside of agriculture and try and bridge those gaps and, foster understanding and awareness about where your food comes from and how we get it made and all the good things we're doing here. So it's going to be a really good show. It's going to be a really good show, Brian.
Well, I'm excited as your eager Padawan here. Today, I'm curious about the topic of fall projects. What's going to be on the show today, Dan?
Well, as we delved into the topic of fall projects, it really became a broader discussion about project management in general. So I'm going to cover some of the stuff that Mac Moore, God bless her, wrote in her blog for GFL Ag this month, which I thought were really good ways to slice and dice project management. We're going to talk about some of the strategic coach tools that we use in our family of companies to excel. And also in our expert interview, I spoke to Curtis Chobot from DOT, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he does his project management. Obviously, there's a lot of R&D around an autonomous farming platform, as you can imagine. And on Coffee Row, I spoke with Kevin Shearer from SAIRs Research, who we often collaborate with at Sure Growth and at the farm. Garnet Peters from Precision Land Solutions, as tile drainage is the ultimate fall project. And Fabian from Fabian Seeds, they got some upgrades going on as their business grows. And we're going to cover lots of great topics with those folks. And in the community feature, we're going to talk about the CAMA Conference, Canadian Agri-Food Marketers Alliance, that we just returned from in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And we'll update you on some of the events there. We were actually up for a few awards for marketing, which you did not win, but it was nice to be nominated and see us up on you should have seen us on the big screen, man. I'm telling you. It was a beautiful thing.
I know we look good, especially you. Look at that hair. You should have won an award for that alone.
There was a lot of great feedback on the hair. There's a lot of great feedback on you, and we got some chuckles out of the crowd. So when they previewed our show, it was pretty awesome. So just a great event overall. Lots of learning. We'll talk about that, and I'm excited about this episode.
Well, it sounds like a packed show. So if you guys are passionate about agriculture and want to stay ahead of the curve, then tune into Next is Now and get ready for some thought-provoking discussion, unbiased opinions, and a deep dive into the future of farming.
Next is Now. I thought I'd do some guitar today just to mix it up.
We keep talking about getting that put down on a track, and we got to do it. I'm
going to bring my 6-string one of these days. Be warned.
Dude, do it. We need to make a ditty. We'll become a meme. That'll be the intro to everybody's podcast. Dan, what are we talking about now? What's next?
We are going to talk about project management and doing a little bit of a deep dive. And Mac and I had a conversation about this topic and challenged her to come up with some tips and tricks, do a little bit of research on how to go about a project. So in that lovely document that you can read online at gflagra.com, Mac talked about the many hats of a farmer. Okay, farmers often play multiple roles: mechanic, market analyst, environmental specialist, which I think is hyperbole for looking at the weather, and many more. But at the end of the day, the work doesn't stop, especially in the fall. You're always looking out the window. You could be doing this, could be doing that. It's a great season for tackling some additional tasks and projects, depending on the length of the good weather that we get, and that's always a factor here in Western Canada. I know in Texas too, where things are cold, but currently. But challenges in farming projects, they can sometimes go off track or take unexpected turns. You're working on fixing summer damages, and you might be making plans for next year's fertility. So Mac actually provided a couple of different points here, excuse me, about how to manage projects and a few principles here. So, and it all ties into some of the things that I would share with you about how we go about project management, Brian. So the first would be creating clarity. And often as leaders, 70% of the time, nobody knows it's in our head. We've been thinking about things. Of course, it's common knowledge to us, but how do we get our team and the folks around us to know what's going on? So understanding your goals of the project, think about the extra value that it brings, that'll provide some motivation. Ensure that everyone on the team understands the project scope, and do some check-ins as you go. Hey, what can I do to make the project clearer for my team and myself? I don't know. Does everybody automatically know what's in your head? The team around you, Brian, is that just, you're a little bit telepathic in nature there?
Well, it's funny you talk about that. It makes me think of, as usual, sports related things, because, that's my real field of expertise. And a lot of times if you're a good player or you've done something for a long time, you forget that maybe someone else doesn't have your experience or your knowledge. And you just, there's coaches that have come from the professional level and started coaching, and they'll tell a player to do something, and the player doesn't understand, and the coach can't. Why didn't you do what I told you to do? It makes complete sense in my head. It's something I would have been able to do, easy, and that's something that I think it takes a lot of self actualization to understand. Like, all right, listen. Maybe it was easy for me, but it might not be easy for somebody else. Nobody can read my mind. They're not psychic. Let me be a little bit more clear as to what I want and figure out how to kind of get that across, especially without being condescending or anything like that. You just want to explain your vision and explain it clearly. So that makes a lot of sense, creating clarity.
Sports is always such a great analogy, and playing on a team and doing some coaching, there's great, life lessons and leadership lessons. And I always wonder, why don't folks get it initially? Then I have to ask myself, like, 3 fingers pointed back at me, what didn't I make clear?
Yeah.
That's your responsibility as a leader to make them get it. And of course, 2023 HR friendly kind of way.
Exactly.
We're not going to be doing the Yellowstone and taking them out. What did they do at the Yellowstone though? Take them for a drive, or they take them out behind the barn, or
take them out behind the barn, or do it. I don't know, up in Canada, if you guys know Bobby Knight. He used to be the coach for the Indiana Hoosiers, which was a big basketball franchise, or big basketball program back in the day. And he was notorious for his coaching style, which was basically berating players, throwing chairs. I mean, you name it, he did it. I mean, they won, but I mean, he just lit into people, and it was kind of embarrassing, something you can't get away with in today's culture.
Not in the modern workplace, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately, I guess depends on which end of the stick you're on.
Yeah. If you're receiving, unfortunately, if you're delivering,
Yeah, if you're being whacked with the stick, it's one perspective. If you're the whacker, it all depends on where you're coming from. But I have some tools that will actually cover some of this and hopefully make it easy, that we like to use. But the second thing she talked about was cultivating culture. This is an interesting statistic, and of course, 74% of statistics, who knows where they come from and how accurate they are. But I love this. 80% of projects fail due to people-related challenges, which often, obviously starts with the leadership and the boss and the owner and so on and so forth. And we have an extra element of complication, I would say, when we're dealing with Canadian farm families, because it's family. It's family. So there's an extra element of managing that. And having an open, trusting environment, open discussions, making sure everybody wants to feel heard. Brian, everybody wants to feel heard these days.
It's hard working with family, no doubt about it. There's a lot of ego and feelings involved in that situation, for sure.
So Mac is telling us we should reflect. Am I promoting enough open dialogue? Can I increase transparency? Of course, you're a one-man show. You can have these conversations with yourself and the tractor. Am I being fair to myself today? Have I paced my snacks appropriately? Have I been fair
Well,
to my tummy?
we're not far from the tractor talking back to you, though. So,
That's true. You'll have an AI tractor that's like Jarvis.
yeah.
You're doing great, Brian. Such straight rows.
Yeah. That'll be awesome. I can't wait for that.
Can I warm your coffee? Can I cool your beer? Can I give you a
Yeah.
sandwich?
Yeah. It's daily affirmations. So handsome today.
This is your third beer. There is a .08 limit on mechanized equipment.
Jarvis, shut up and drive.
Override safety. Anyways.
Exactly.
So from there, we want to calibrate our course. That's the third component. Having a project roadmap is essential. You should consider timelines. You should consider clear delegation of roles. You should consider the budget. Please don't color outside the lines when it comes to the budget, Brian. Margins are tight in farming. Resourcing. Some of the folks that we talked to on this episode that will be coming up touched on that. So it's a bit of a theme. Be flexible. How flexible are you? And we're not talking yoga. We're talking, according to the plan. Can you adapt and roll? We're going to look at your Kolbe. Well, I'll know very soon, Brian. It shall be revealed how flexible you are.
I think people can probably guess from our several episodes as to what I am.
And continue to regularly assess, is our course direction aligned with our initial plan? If not, what are the risks and benefits of changing course? So you're going to want to take a look at that blog and get more information on that. But I'm going to share with you my screen here to share some of these tools that we enjoy at Aberhart Ag. I'm just going to share my entire screen. If you're listening, we'll just try and give you the best visual that we can.
Yeah.
But the Kolbe is a tool that we use extensively in HR throughout our family of companies, and it is a distinct, forever impression of your innative. Sorry, that's the wrong word. Innative. I just made it totally
innate. Innative, is that the country of
it's been a long week.
Int?
Okay. Allow me to create two words although it could be very efficient to just use one word, innative, but no, it's your innate conative, which is Latin for action. Innate conative ability. So you are going to approach a particular project or task in the same way every time with specific energy around 4 different areas. So we have fact finder, we have follow through, we have quick start, and we have implementer. And I would say that's all pretty self-explanatory with the exception of implementer. The fourth one, that's a little bit about whether you're a big picture thinker or nuts and bolts thinker.
All right.
So in your case, I had you fill out this questionnaire and you're a little bit, confused as to what it all meant, but this is a very clear roadmap of how you're going to approach any topic. So I can be a bit of a soothsayer on how you're going to go about things. And knowing this about yourself and knowing this about folks on your team is very important, to the extent that on the farm, folks have these numbers on their coveralls. So you know who you're talking to and how you're going to go about tasks. So in your particular case, you got a strong, big red bar there, fact finder. You're a 7 fact finder. So the first thing that you're going to do when you approach a task or project, again, I'm combining words, task or project, is to use your fact finder and research. Is that correct, Brian? Yes or no?
That is 100% correct. That I do a lot of research and study. I mean, it can be something as simple as I think I'm going to buy a new charger for my iPhone. I got to go down the rabbit hole in that chart. I got to find out best reviews, all the features, what's the likelihood of it, being damaged, or, how many charges does it? I do all that stuff.
Sounds painful.
I have to know. And just for the people at home, just so you can get a visual of what we're looking at, if you're not listening or watching the video, this is a bar chart, vertical bar chart with the number 7, 5, 4, and 4. So right now we're going over 7.
Yeah, so you're going to start with your 7 fact finder. The next area where you have the most energy or interest or what you initiate with is your follow through. Okay.
Yeah.
So your 5 follow through, which is pretty good. If you're low on this scale, There's nothing wrong with any of this. It just means that you're a lot more flexible and adaptable, and you need to find others to help you with the follow through part. If you're a lot higher, you're going to be able to do repeating, menial tasks, more and more over and over versus somebody who's low on it. So, for example, on the farm, we have a spreadsheet of everybody's fact finder, follow through, quick start, and implementer, and you don't want too much of anything. Because if you have people that research too much and are too high on the follow through, well, they're great for doing, but you need somebody with the ideas and the adaptability and the flexibility to blow up their minds, and create havoc in their day. It wouldn't be any fun otherwise. But then again, if you have somebody who's extremely low on the fact finder, extremely high quick start, which you're a 4, so you're not really high on the risk, getting going, jumping off a cliff, building the plane on the way down. So you're a good fit for someone like me who is, which we'll look at mine shortly. And you're also an implementer, which is a little bit lower than, say, if you were an 8 or a 9, which, puts you into the engineer category, able to build anything with your hands, build the Noah's Ark right out of your head or something like that. I don't know. But if you're really low on the implementer scale, nothing wrong with that. You're a perfect, unique snowflake, but it just means you're a bigger picture thinker.
So if I'm looking at this and I'm trying to be kind to myself, this would paint me as a person who does a ton of research, like, all right, and then I say, okay, this is what we need to do. And then for the most part, I'll follow through and get the process started. But then I'm like, okay, now I need to get people to actually put this thing together and make it work. Because it's not me. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this because it will take forever to implement. So I'd go get a professional or, hire the right person for the right job. Does that sound about right?
I'm thinking so. And now you're Kolbe. At least you understand about, how you're going to go about every project, and the people talking to you should understand that you aren't necessarily the highest quick start or you're not the true nuts and bolts guy. You want somebody to help engineer it. But look at this. This is shocking. Can you tell folks that are listening what you're seeing here? I know it's a little bit graphic, but this is my Kolbe. Shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody that works with me.
Well, we have the same research capabilities.
Yep.
Like the research.
Yeah.
And let's see your follow through. All right. You like to have a lot of ideas going at once.
Yeah, so what this 2 follow through tells you, it's a tiny blue bar, is I don't have a lot of energy for following through on the project. I don't have a lot of energy for continually executing tasks. That's where I have to build out a team. And with my 9 quick start, my big green bar, which I'm pretty proud of, but it often gets me in trouble, not a lot of risk adversity going on there, ready to go on any new idea, just absolutely get energized by new ideas, have infinite, endless energy. And this is often the MO that we see with, entrepreneurs that are, the crazy visionary leaders. Actually, Rob Sake is a big fan of the Kolbe, and he has a huge quick start. God bless him. So I start with my quick start, 9. Then I research it. So it's kind of like a brake stand. I got my 1 foot on the accelerator and 1 foot on the brake all the time with the fact finder. But then I really have to turn around and try and build a team around that. And I'm really a big picture thinker. I'm a 2 implementer. My eyes glaze over when we get really into the specifics of things. And I never inherited my dad or my brother's talent for taking things apart and actually putting them back together or building something by hand. I mean, Dad's built a lot of the buildings on the shop, including on the farm, including the house. The house that my brother lives in now came on a truck for $17,000 in 1975, the year I was born, and they put it together with some neighbors, and they ran the wiring and everything. Like, can you imagine, man? I admire that so much.
I can't imagine at all. That terrifies me, and it's very impressive.
It is. I've always envied that, but I'm the guy who's the daydreamer, dreaming about, who knows what, and my follow through and ability to pay attention is very low. And yeah,
well, so and it's who you are, because I have no desire to do that either. I can admire it and appreciate the skill and the dedication it takes to do something like that, but it's not for me. That's not my deal. No. I could take apart a computer and put it back together. I could do that. Yeah. So everybody has their thing.
That probably feeds your fact finder, because all that detail, right?
True. Yeah.
I know you, Brian.
You know my Kolbe.
I know you well. So, to some of these points about clarity, getting what's in your head, out of your head, onto paper to help your team execute around you so you don't lose your mind and they don't lose their minds. We often start a project with the impact filter. This is a strategic coach tool. So, we start with the purpose. What do we want to accomplish? If I write this out and share it with the team, or if I get the team to do this around the project too, we develop a lot of clarity. The importance. What's the biggest difference this is going to make? The ideal outcome. What is the completed project going to look like? And then you can get really specific, dive into the weeds a little bit, whip out your success criteria. What has to be true when we're done this project? And get very specific about your goals, and then you know what it's going to look like when it's done. And consider what is the best result if you do take action, and what is the worst result if you don't take action, Brian. If you write all this down, your team is a lot more liable to understand where the ship is going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This coaching is worth a lot, man. This is high price coaching right here, man.
Well, yeah, also, I mean, and these tools are invaluable especially if you've never seen anything like this before. It could change your thinking completely.
It is super simple, stupid, but highly effective, and your team will love you for it. The strategy circle, when you start a project, you want to review what your goals are and what are the obstacles that would prevent you from getting the goals achieved. So if you write down your obstacles and you develop strategies to overcome those obstacles, then you can dream of the payoffs and the results in a meaningful and fruitful way. And again, visibility for your team on this. If you have your team brainstorming, knowing ourselves, knowing our Kolbe, knowing our tendencies, knowing the team dynamics, what are the challenges we're going to face launching a new initiative, and how do we overcome them? Because the slogan here is all those things that seem to oppose our goals are actually the raw material for achieving them.
That makes sense.
So we can take our obstacles and we can transform them into strategies. And that's exciting and fun when it comes to project management. So
very nice.
So yeah, so that is that. That's kind of my little coaching speech around project management. I think that fits very nicely with Mac's blog, and I like the way that all came together because she put out those points, and I realized, after 8 years in business, and I think it was 6-7 years in coach now, we have the tools to get to the moon if we really want to.
Well, some of those examples you just pulled up, some of those templates, can some of our listeners find those templates?
You can Google it and you could find it online. I think sometimes the challenge is if we haven't used them before and we're unsure of the structure and we've never experienced the value of them, they're hard to plug into.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that's a great thing to do. Whatever tools or models or filters or lens of which you look at your work and your projects and your company and your farm and your business, you got to set aside time with the team to physically sharpen your pencil and write this stuff out, because to use it on a daily basis is a bit of a challenge. So this is really project management phase. This is, setting intentions before you get into the weeds. This is bringing your team in on it. And it's very, very functional that way. So it's easy to grab a form like this, but it's not easy to sit and think and draw it out. It just isn't. And that's why, we go to Toronto every 90 days to write this stuff out and get clarity on the work that we're doing.
Keep everybody focused. Well, sounds like we can get some real world examples of this with your next interview.
Yeah, it all fits together very nicely in this episode. Let's hear from Curtis Chobot from Raven now. Raven, who acquired the Dot, which is an autonomous platform that allows for seeding and spreading and spraying and different things like that. Bringing that kind of project to market is a huge endeavor. So Curtis has been involved with that extensively over the years, and he shares with us some of the things he does to slice and dice his project management.
The biggest thing is it's building blocks to get you where you need to be efficiently as you can get there. thinking of it like a diamond. What's your most crucial piece at the bottom? Build your blocks up, and your top block that comes back to that last point is what was the goal you were trying to achieve. I think a lot of it is, biggest thing is just understanding your resources, starting with your people. What are they good at? Where can you put them so they can be successful? Also being able to put them in a place where they can learn and grow, and then coordinating from there, whether it's through spreadsheets or whatever works in front of your face to understand all the different components and pieces to putting this project together.
All right. Yeah. I mean, this plugs right into the old Kolbe sheet. I mean, people are your biggest resource in understanding where they fit in. And that's number one before you do anything in a project. Right person for the right job.
Yeah, and I like that he talks about getting it out on paper too.
Yeah.
So everybody can see it and have that visibility and interact on. I mean, if you don't have a map, if you don't have a bit of a treasure map to get to where you're going that everybody can see, probably going to get lost in the woods for that.
For sure.
Or treasure hunting, as I often do, as you know, a bit of a treasure hunter guy.
You're like modern day Indiana Jones?
Well, I'm a big fan of Curtis Oak Island, and I have a friend that was going to sail me out there, actually. It's a 40-mile sail to the island.
Oh. Well, see, now, actually, you're more like a Nathan Drake. You're an uncharted. You're like a adventuring, carry your 45 millimeter to your side, just in case you run into any hostiles on your treasure adventures. But you have that silvery tongue, so you can talk your way out of it too. Yeah.
Well, that is my greatest asset, because physically I'm not quite as intimidating as somebody, say, like yourself. It's not my
I'm just a big teddy bear.
I know. Can only imagine. Thankfully.
Yes.
Use your powers for good, Brian.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail, so I try to remain calm in all situations.
The carrot and the stick. Freedom, prison.
Yes. I like to remain free and unencumbered.
Well, you're doing great in that regard. I just want to encourage you.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Keep that going. Keep that streak going.
Keep your civil rights. Keep that sun shining on your forehead.
Exactly. So who do we have next?
Well, on Coffee Row, we talked to a number of individuals about project management, and Kevin Shearer is a brilliant guy. His company is SAIRs. He does a lot of precision ag research and development for us with the farm and with Sure Growth technologies, and helping us out with new products with Aberhart Ag. So he'll go and help map out trials and record them. And actually, he had a career for a couple decades as a forensic scientist or forensic researcher for the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And he likened what he does in this field with his company to some of what he did with the RCMP, because it's the use of technology, it's the eye for detail, it's the project planning.
Right.
So who knows what stories he could tell us about what he's seen both on the farm and in the crime arena, the true crime.
I'd love to hear some of that stuff for sure.
My favorite genre of documentary on Netflix.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let me play this.
Let's boot that puppy up.
Yeah.
I hesitate to say that there is no plan. There is a plan, and the plan is to keep an open mind and to be flexible and to analyze all the information that you can get, and then see if there's something in it that will validate a decent trial or so there's basic components to it. The first thing for a trial, I need to understand what it is we're trialing and what we expect to see. And then I think, if we expect to see it, how do we expect to document it? We need to have the basics. We need a location for it. So it's a who, what, why, where, when, and how. Where's it going to take place? When's it going to take place? We have a location. I pretty much always use GIS data, and there's different forms of getting that GIS data, but plan on a location for the trial. Sometimes you don't get that plan. Maybe that trial comes at me when I don't have any planning. I'm not involved in the planning of where it is. So then I need to analyze it and see if there's a subset of boundaries in that area that can make a good comparison, a viable comparison. What I do is I try to, over the course of my lifetime, I've acquired a toolbox of skills. And when that opportunity for a trial presents, I go through my toolbox and I pull out what I think will work to make a decent trial out of it. And like I say, there's some basic fundamentals that you go through.
Yeah, I like that. Again, this makes me think of, he must be the person they patterned Liam Neeson's character in Taken after. He has a certain skill set that he employs.
I don't know who you are, but I will find you.
I will find you with my certain set of skills. But no, and he also sounds like, going back to the Kolbe, it sounds like myself. Like he mentioned analyzing a lot and doing a lot of research and getting the right things, then putting it down and then executing. So yeah, I mean, it's everything I'm hearing so far is bearing out the whole strategic circle.
He would be super high on research and super high on follow through to do trials, because trials are extremely painful and it takes a lot to follow through. So that is signature Kolbe talents right there. And it's interesting to hear somebody who has that level of experience talk about all the things that you might have to bring out of the tickle trunk to get a project done. And also
the tickle trunk?
Mr. Dress Up.
Did you say tickle? No, this must be distinctly Canadian.
You didn't grow up in Canada.
Tickle trunk?
We have a guy that was on TV when we used to tune in the bunny ears on the farm to get, a couple channels out of Brandon, which is 2 hours away where I live now. But yeah, Mr. Dress Up, he was a big deal. He'd be like your Mr. Rogers. Same kind of thing, kids show. And every episode he'd be like, let's go over to the tickle trunk. And he would bring stuff out of there. Yeah, I don't know how they did it back in the day without CGI, but he would pull stuff out of there and like he'd dress up and play this and play that. And it was incredible. It was great. He's a Canadian icon, man.
Well, see, and this is the political correctness of the day and the cringe factor of the day.
You're
just
probably
makes
wondering what's happening.
I'm like, tickle trunk? Could they even? I mean, it sounds kind of creepy.
Reference, If I'm on Joe Rogan, I start talking tickle trunk.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what's going on at the tickle trunk? Anyway, I don't want to disparage this guy. He sounds like he was a lovely human being, just like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Bring it back in here. Rein it in.
Rein it in, tickle trunk. It's gonna be my new game. That's gonna be my new gamer tag.
Honey, it's a Canadian children's TV show. I just learned that today, but you could string her out a bit.
Yeah.
What's in the tickle trunk for lunch, honey?
But other than a slap to the face, nothing.
Physical violence.
Yeah.
Our next quote is from a good friend of mine, Garnet Peters, whom I worked with extensively for a couple of years in the water management business, specifically tile drainage, although we did do a lot of surface drainage. But tile drainage is the ultimate product. The company that he works with is Precision Land Solutions. And he shared a little bit about their project management, because tile drainage is very sequential and there's some very important steps. And it's not something you just eyeball with your tongue sticking out and one eye closed. It's something that is extremely precise. You're installing pipe from 4 inches to sometimes 16 inches, depending on the water flow, subterraneously, 3 to 6 feet deep, sometimes 2, and sometimes deeper. Sometimes you got to cut through the hill, but it has to be on grade at such a way over a long, far distance.
Yeah.
In such a way that the water will run out to an outlet. So it's underground construction using giant plows and it's incredible work. So it involves a lot of surveying and GPS and project design and permitting and installation and review. We're talking probably $1,500 per acre of upgrades to your land, but it works absolutely fantastic in filtering out some of the surface water down through the soil. It keeps the water table down so your roots don't get drowned, and it's awesome for yield and extensively used here in Manitoba, and it's becoming a lot more common in Saskatchewan and Alberta. But let's hear what Garnet has to say about how they manage projects.
So one would be a meet and greet, a consult, right? What's the customer want? What's he trying to achieve? What are some obstacles that he's facing? Make sure that we're providing a solution for a problem. And then, so once we've consulted, then typically what we'll do is we'll do a survey. If everything aligns, we'll do a survey and a design, go back to a consulting process, make sure it's what he wants, give him an estimate. From there, we'll go to permitting. So typically RM, water stewardship, any other parties that need to be involved, MIT, anything like that. We'll go for approval. After approval, then we do the world famous install, and then finish that up, close that up, and then meet with the customer again and show him what we've done, give him an invoice, give him an as installed, depth maps, all that stuff. So not very similar to what it was when you were here. I don't think that whole process has really changed. So that's like the 30-second version of the process.
All right.
Tile drainage in 30 seconds. Whew.
You got through it.
It's a big job.
Through it. It's very yeah, I didn't really understand the importance. You mentioned roots drowning. I didn't even know that was a possibility on a farm when you said that.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. You have to understand that water moves in the soil in some very interesting ways from a whole bunch of different processes. So water can move any way in the soil. Often it's coming, when you have heavy rains or you have certain kind of soils, say you could have a couple feet of sand, and then you got like a bathtub scenario where you got hard clay that prevents, the translocation of water up and down through the soil profile. It can fill up just like a bathtub. And then it'll, especially in something like potatoes, it can rot your potatoes out. It can drown out your crop. Crops can only last so long without oxygen between the space of the particles in the soil. So what this does is they got little slots in that 4-inch pipe, and it sucks. It's like the weeping tile around your house. I don't know if you have it in Texas, but here in Canada we have weeping tile. It sucks out that water table as it rises, and the roots will be reaching down for that moisture, so that's very healthy for them. But it is absolutely fascinating how water moves in the soil. The value of this technology, it's very environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
It definitely upgrades your land for decades and decades to come. If you go to places like Holland, it's all extensively water managed, and Ontario and different places like that, they have almost everything tiled in places. And lots in eastern Manitoba where we have, potato country and a certain kind of soil where it's very flat and the water table can drown out crops. But it's also coming in a more specific targeted fashion to other areas of Western Canada. So yeah, it's very cool. I really enjoyed it.
That sounds really interesting. It makes me think a little bit. I've just been reading about some of those inner city farms that are in buildings and are storage containers, things like that, where they use the hydroponics and all that stuff.
Yeah, vertical farming.
Vertical farming, yeah, with the water management. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I just had Harry Duran on the podcast, who's on season 9 of the vertical farming podcast. So it was pretty interesting to learn a little bit about that. So
very cool.
Maybe we'll have to do a show on that one time.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Next up, we have Patrick Fabian from Alberta, Brooks, Alberta. He talks a little bit about some of the projects that he's working on this fall as their business continues to grow.
What we're doing this fall is we're just doing some topographical changes to allow for better drainage so that we can install our tanks in a better location for all-season access. The clientele that we have is starting to increase, and we're getting more traction with the biologicals. And now all of a sudden, instead of people picking them up in 20-liter pails and picking them up in 1,000-liter totes, we've got people that are coming and picking them up by truckloads. So we're getting a very positive response that way. So we're just making some changes in our yard to accommodate that for our clients. as well as any other projects that we've got going on. We've done a project through the summer where we intercropped soybeans with our grain corn to see if there was any benefit for the nitrogen fixation from the soybeans through the AMF network to be able to facilitate some nitrogen supplementation to our corn crop. We haven't combined it yet, so we don't have those numbers in, but satellite imagery shows clearly from space exactly where that 20-acre strip is. So we're quite excited about that. This is going to be some exciting research that we're looking forward to seeing the results on.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to hear some of this stuff, especially when it's you hear a little bit about their success, their diligence and project management. Obviously helped them go from people just picking up, pails and bucket loads to having to redo their whole yard for, larger sales. So, I mean, that's huge. I love hearing that stuff.
It speaks to a larger trend in the industry whereby biologicals are growing by leaps and bounds. And so we're evolving from this chemistry-based mindset of the last 50, 60 years that's dominated the landscape to working more with what nature has to offer. And I think it's going to be a gradual transition, but I think every year we're seeing more benefits of that kind of thing, and good on them. I'm always interested in that kind of thing. And the other thing that struck me was seeing this stuff from space. Like, wow, it's so cool that you can see these results from space. And we were talking with Shane Thomas at the conference there yesterday, which we'll get into shortly, but he thought it was the coolest thing on planet Earth when we can draw. Essentially, we can draw anything that we want into the field that can be picked up by NDVI information. We can spray it in with a drone. So if I want to say hi, Brian, or in some quarters here of the western provinces, we have a certain slogan regarding our prime minister. Not to get into politics, but we can put that all in the field. We can put that all in the field. We could send a message to Justin Trudeau in our field that you can see from space. And that's fine.
You're probably giving somebody some bad ideas out there.
Technically, I think it's been done, but I don't know if it's been done with drone spray or just with a cultivator or a donkey and a plow. None of my business.
More likely a donkey and a plow. That sounds like the right tool for that particular political statement.
Yep.
Awesome. So what do we have next?
Well, I just wanted to touch on briefly before we wrap this up, some of the things that were going on in the community, and relevant and recent was yesterday we attended the Level Up Conference with the Canadian Agri-Food Marketers Alliance, CAMA. This is new to me somehow, but it's a get together with the agri-food marketers and communicators in the industry. Marketers, communicators, sales executives, media, branders within agri-food companies. There's manufacturers, processors, retailers, marketing agencies, media, and academia. It was very cool. There were some great keynote presentations by none other than Shane Thomas from Upstream Ag, who's a good friend of ours, who publishes a digital ag newsletter every week, every Sunday morning to 15,000 readers. He's a bit of a sage in the industry. And Christian Hebert shared some of what he's been doing in the industry with PR and communications and marketing in order to get him to the halls of the regulatory bodies to have an influence on what he called his license to farm, which is, will we be allowed to farm in the future with the tools that we have, or will we be stymied like they have been in the Netherlands, which is kind of an existential crisis for nations in terms of food security. If the do-gooders take away that ability for us to produce food and energy, God bless them. But it was a great time. And you know what? The other part was really interesting too, was last night at the gala. We almost won. We were runners up. We were could have beens,
so close.
Should have beens. No, there's a lot of great entries, but we were up for a couple different categories. We were up for social media. We were up for the newsletter. We were up for the podcast. And I saw us on the big screen. Maybe I'll include that clip, and they can throw it into the podcast. But it was a lot of fun to see us up on the big screen. We got some chuckles as we were doing our Nexus Now jingle, and
How do we look?
we looked great. We
I
looked
knew
pretty
it.
good. But
I
you know
knew
who
it.
makes us look good is our team and the people around this
Absolutely.
podcast and the folks at Ad Farm that helped us build this structure and keep us on time and like that, help us with the follow through,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
deadlines, and
Big thanks to everyone behind the scenes here, because they're the ones that really do anything. We just get on here and have fun, and these
well,
guys are making it happen.
it was also really tear jerking too, because Ben Graham got up on stage there and he got the Lifetime Marketing Award. He was a recipient, and I mean,
Oh, wow.
what a scholar and a gentleman. And so we've been working with Ben on a number of upcoming things, including the Convergence Conference, which we'll talk more about in the future. That's coming up in February that we're putting on. But it was just great to, it was very energizing and invigorating. I learned a lot about marketing. It reminded me, you know, as marketers, we've got to get out there and keep, you know, get some dirt under our fingernails so that we can continue to relate to the farming community. Even though I'm really close to it, sometimes I feel a little bit removed. And understanding your customers and your customers' experience and what works and what doesn't, and paying
Well,
attention to all that. There was some great discussion around that. The panel was incredible. And I was pretty excited again, to be honest, and pretty thankful and honored to be amongst all those great folks in the industry as a marketer, because it's such a good news story. It's not like we're marketing things that have a detriment to people on the planet. We're doing some real good here. So
yeah.
that's really
No.
fun.
And I wish I could have been there. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it up to Canada for this, but I have a really important question.
Yep.
Who beat us and where do they live?
Well, there was a lot of really amazing marketing there. I can't remember all the winners, but I think in the podcast category, which also included webinars, it was Cereals Canada. So
Oh, okay.
we're the recipient. Congratulations to all the winners. It's nice to recognize folks' hard work in the industry, and it gave a really good snapshot as they shared a lot of the marketing collateral that was up for nominations and for awards. Gave you a pretty good look at some of the marketing collateral that people are creating in the industry, and it's incredible what
Yeah.
people are doing to promote agricultural products and practices. We don't think of it when we see it, but it takes a tremendous amount of work and banging your head against the desk and gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair to make this marketing collateral and get your message across. And I know you're in marketing in a lot of different fields too, and have done a lot of different aspects of that, but it's such an interesting and fascinating lifelong puzzle, and it's just a
Yeah.
never ending learning curve. And you always, just like farming, you could always do better. You know, you could always, it's just constant straining to get better and do more with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you, again, going back to my layman mindset, you said cereals. When I hear the word cereals, I'm thinking Lucky Charms. Is that what we're talking about?
technically, yes, we're
Gotcha.
talking about cereals, which would be wheat, barley, oats,
So beer too, then.
yeah, rye
Bread,
whiskey.
beer, cereal. Okay. I don't mind getting beat by beer and cereal, folks. I guess I can accept that.
I'm here to inform you that farmers grow pretty much everything that you eat. I don't know how. Eureka
What?
aha moment. Yeah.
I grow my
TSN turning
Twinkies and
point.
my ho-hos?
We make it all, man. We do it all for you. That's how you grew so tall, eating your Wheaties.
That is true. I think it's probably more chemical involved in that, though.
That's not our wheelhouse, but
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with a few key takeaways from what we've heard today, Dan.
well, I really enjoyed going through this process, and it's a good reminder for how we should approach all projects so that we get the most output from our inputs, right? And I really love what Mac wrote. That was pretty inspirational. So thanks, Mac, for your work. And it was fun to review the strategic coach tools and catch up with some of these folks about the projects that they're working on. So I hope that gives some context and, you know, understanding and inspiration to folks that are going to go about their own projects in a useful and valuable way. We're always looking to offer value with this marketing that we do.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Next is Now. I'm Brian Brunson with Dan Aberhart. And join us next time for a discussion on the farming year in summary. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. We had a meeting, and I think we're going to talk maybe about the year in summary or family holidays or something like that around the holidays coming up in December. So either way, it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.